I stepped out of my truck expecting the usual, maybe some overgrown weeds, a few HOA notices jammed into the mailbox, and the quiet awkwardness that always came after being away for 6 weeks on federal assignment. I just finished a deployment stateside for the Department of Housing Oversight, and I was more than ready for a beer, a shower, and to pretend for a few days that the world didn't need saving. Instead, I found a priest sprinkling holy water on a gravestone in my backyard. The tombstone read, "Rest in peace, Mildred Jenkins." My fence was the backdrop, my dog's favorite patch of dirt was now sacred ground, and about a dozen mourners in somber black sat politely weeping beneath a canopy tent. A clarinet player near my grill was playing something slow and tragic, while a funeral brochure flapped in the breeze at my feet. On the front, in cheerful cursive, it said, "Tranquil Pines Community Memorial Garden, a proud HOA project," with my address right below. I hadn't just missed my mail. I'd missed the part where the neighborhood HOA decided to turn my private land into a cemetery. For a solid 10 seconds, I didn't say a word. I just stood there staring at the folding chairs, the floral arrangements, and the buffet table someone had set up right next to my compost bin. One of my solar-powered garden gnomes had been repurposed as a doorstop for a cooler full of bottled water. My fists clenched, my jaw locked. Somewhere deep inside, I felt that eerie calm that only happens right before a storm, a very legal, very satisfying one. Then she came clacking across the grass like a fashion-conscious peacock. Heels, pearls, wide-brimmed hat, and an attitude that smelled like expired Chardonnay. Clipboard in hand, she beamed at me like I was the guest of honor at a party I never agreed to host. "Oh, you must be Mr. Adams," she said, barely glancing at me. "You missed the blessing, but don't worry, we recorded it for the HOA newsletter." She extended a manicured hand like she was awarding me a medal. "Lydia Whitmore," she said. "HOA President and Cemetery Initiative Chair." I looked at her hand like it was made of moldy cheese. What the hell happened here? Her smile twitched, but only for a second. "Our new community project. The HOA voted while you were away. Your land is just perfect, quiet, serene, barely used." "Because I was gone," I growled. She laughed, fake and fluttery. "Well, that did make the process smoother. Less red tape." I tried to stay calm, I really did. But then I saw another gravestone behind her with the name Eugene Buddy Lentz etched above a fake marble angel, and something in my brain snapped. "Are these people actually buried here?" She grinned like I just complimented her landscaping. "Just a few. We expedited the permits while you were on assignment." "Military, right?" "Mrs. Novak said you were a veteran." "Not quite," I muttered. "I'm a federal agent with housing oversight." Which was technically true. What I didn't tell her was that I also had clearance that let me pull strings most people didn't even know existed. I didn't just understand housing law, I wrote sections of it. And right now, I was standing in the middle of what looked like a completely unauthorized graveyard built on my own private property. But I couldn't blow my cover just yet. Not officially. My work was supposed to stay off the radar until investigations formally launched. So I forced a smile and played the confused homeowner. "You built a cemetery on my land while I was away. Without permission." She huffed. "The board voted. We mailed you a notice. You didn't respond. I was on a classified deployment. Not my fault you didn't check your mail. There is no mail service where I was." "Well," she said brightly, then it was unanimous. "No objections means approval. That's not how consent works in a civilized society. Or a lawful one. But the worst part, the truly unforgivable moment, came when I noticed the porta-potty parked near my tool shed. It had a lacy ribbon on it and a laminated sign that read, "Bereavement use only." I took a step toward it, nearly tripped over a fresh mound of dirt, and saw a wooden stake marked "Reserved." No name. Just a placeholder. Then a woman in black approached Lydia in tears. "Thank you again," she said. "My mother always wanted to be buried somewhere peaceful. I just wish she'd met the landowner." "Oh, I'm sure he would have approved," Lydia replied sweetly. I opened my mouth, ready to launch verbal missiles, but something caught my eye. Behind the mourners, partially hidden near my shed, was a trailer. I knew that logo. Rest Easy Solutions Incorporated. A company flagged in a federal fraud report just 2 months ago for illegally selling cemetery plots on land they didn't own. Suddenly it all clicked. This wasn't just Lydia being nuts. This was organized fraud. I backed away slowly, pretending to wipe away a tear. I nodded solemnly to the mourners. gave the clarinet guy a half-hearted shoulder pat, and slipped around the side of the house. Once out of sight, I pulled out my encrypted phone, activated my secure channel, and launched my license plate scanner app. Every vehicle in that lot, contractor trucks, catering vans, mourners in rented Cadillacs, was logged. Then I took photos. Every tombstone. Every brochure. Every single fraudulent piece of memorial literature. I filmed Lydia giving a smug little tour to a guy I recognized from a city council corruption case. And when I zoomed in on the blueprints she was holding, my blood turned cold. They were planning an expansion. Way beyond my lot. This wasn't just a pop-up burial plot. This was a full-blown cemetery hustle, and they were using stolen land to run it. My phone buzzed. Secure message. It was from Marcus, a fellow agent on the other side of the state. Got your ping. Rest easy's under federal watch. You in? I typed one word, very. They buried the wrong body on the wrong man's lawn. And now I was going to unearth every dirty secret they thought would stay 6 feet under. By sunrise the next morning, I was already in mission mode. I slipped out in plain clothes and installed trail cams in the tree's motion-activated, night vision enabled, and pointed at every access point to my land. I wasn't just documenting what they'd done. I was waiting to catch them expanding. By noon, a white van rolled up behind my shed. Painted on the side in pastel letters, Eternal Rest in Partnership with HOA Harmony. 2 men hopped out with folding chairs and another polished headstone. I recognized one of them. David Monroe. Former contractor. Alleged scam artist. He'd been on my radar a year ago, but the case had gone cold thanks to local pressure. Now he was on my lawn planting bodies. I watched through binoculars from my attic window. My cams blinked steadily, capturing every step. Later that afternoon, I visited the county records office under the guise of a curious property owner. I asked for any zoning changes or temporary land use permits associated with my address. The clerk frowned. Nothing's been submitted. Not even a community petition? She squinted at the screen. 3 weeks ago, there was one. From the HOA. But it was denied. Required landowner consent. I smiled thinly. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed. Back home, I reviewed the footage. In the last 12 hours alone, there had been multiple visits. One board member even handed out envelopes while a group of retirees in golf carts took a cemetery tour. They had a plastic wheel for measuring plot sizes and were literally spray painting grave boundaries on my grass. Karen Lydia showed up just before dusk in a Mercedes SUV. Sunglasses on, holding a thermos like a wine mom hosting an open house. She posed next to a new sign, plots available, limited offer, HOA members get priority. She even pointed toward my overgrown vegetable patch and gave a knowing nod. That was the expansion nod. They were going to turn my tomatoes into tombstones. It was time to go nuclear. I called Marcus. Want in? I asked. I want point, he replied. Within 48 hours, we had a sting operation greenlit. My backyard became a federal honey trap. We had 3 other agents on the ground posing as surveyors, a surveillance drone flying overhead, and a mobile command van 2 blocks away parked behind a church. This was no longer just personal. This was professional retribution. And it was about to hit like a freight train. Lydia didn't suspect a thing. She continued selling fake plots with the enthusiasm of a timeshare salesman on commission. Her volunteers handed out glossy pamphlets showing happy seniors smiling next to headstones photoshopped right over my lawn. She bragged about zoning immunity and lifetime guarantees. I even posed as a buyer wearing a fake mustache and sunglasses. She didn't recognize me. She was too busy running her con. That was her first mistake. Her second came during her so-called heritage dedication speech, where she told a crowd of mourners that community consensus gave her the legal right to build a cemetery wherever she wanted. We had it all on tape. By Monday morning, enforcement agents marched into the HOA office and served cease and desist orders. Meanwhile, Lydia stood by a fake plaque glued to a rock, still giving speeches. When the agents arrived, she panicked. "You can't interrupt a private memorial," she shouted. One of the agents handed her the paperwork. "Ma'am, you're operating an illegal cemetery. You're under investigation for fraud, trespassing, money laundering, and conversion of private land." She blanched. "We had consent. It was implied." "You forged it," he said flatly. Families began crying. People screamed. Some demanded to know where their loved ones' ashes really were. I stepped up beside Lydia and leaned in. You should have read the fine print, I said. Especially the part where I'm the federal agent in charge of HOA oversight. She looked at me like I'd sprouted horns. Then the realization hit, and her mouth snapped shut. By the end of the week, the scandal had gone viral. News trucks parked down the street. Helicopters buzzed overhead. The headline? HOA president sold fake graves on federal agents' land. Karen Lydia was arrested. 15 years, no parole. Fraud. Forgery. Public endangerment. You name it. The last time I saw her, she was being led away in cuffs. She turned to scan the crowd like she expected applause. She got silence. The fake graves were removed. The lawn receded. A local nonprofit installed a real memorial Gardeno burials, just flowers, benches, and a plaque. Let truth rest where lies once stood. That night, I stood on my porch, the wind brushing past like an old friend. Justice wasn't coming. It had arrived. And this time, no one was ever burying the truth again.